Hearing to order. Just briefly, some housekeeping things. If you would like to make comments, we encourage that. Please sign up if you haven't already. And if you want to make, when we call your name, if you would come over to the podium and speak into the microphone for the benefit of the people that are watching online. Commissioner Tishnell could not be here tonight. Something came up and he had to take care of that, but he will be briefed on all comments, and of course, any emails and letters that we've received, and we have received some, he's already had an opportunity to peruse those. Commissioner Heimbaugh and myself are here this evening to hear comments and concerns or whatever about the proposed solar amendments to the Deep Creek Watershed zoning ordinance. We will not be answering questions. We're just here to listen tonight and take everything that is said under advisement as we move forward. With that, I will turn it over to Chad, who will give a briefing on what those amendments are.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Chad Pike from the Planning Office. A couple things, just a little bit of background. These are amendments to the Deep Creek Watershed zoning ordinance. These would only be applicable. These are only applicable in Deep Creek. So Garrett County doesn't have countywide zoning, just zoning in Deep Creek and some of the towns. So these would be specific to the Deep Creek area. Also, these would be applicable to any future applications. So these don't apply to anything that's already existing. When the zoning ordinance was adopted in 1975, I don't know if a lot of people imagined solar fields going everywhere in Garrett County, but that's the situation we've found ourselves in the last couple of years. The zoning ordinance does not mention solar at all. It has a broad category of electric power generating plants or substations. So that's what we've had to lump solar into for now. That use requires a special exception in all districts, which means it has a hearing before the Zoning Board of Appeals. In 2019 and 2021, we had a couple applications for solar along Sand Flat Road. And during that process, I think it became clear to all of us that it was necessary to adopt some specific regulations regarding solar that would give some direction to planning staff, to the Board of Appeals. So at the Board of Appeals request, they approached the Planning Commission about adopting some zoning ordinances. So during the summer, we had a couple months where the Planning Commission met. Planning staff prepared a broad outline of some amendments based on regulations that were found in other jurisdictions. So we took a look at those. Planning Commission went back and forth during a couple work sessions. And then during the summer, they prepared these amendments that they then presented to the Board of Commissioners. So I'll give everybody just a general outline of those proposed amendments. They fall into two general categories. The larger commercial solar systems that will be the main or primary use on a lot. And then you have ground or roof mounted solar that will be accessory to an existing use. So if you have a house or a business, these would be the types of things that would be accessory to that. So regarding commercial solar as a primary use, that would include both utility scale and the community solar projects. So they're all together in this commercial solar energy generating system definition. That use would require a special exception hearing for the Zoning Appeals Board in all districts. They would also be subject to the following. There'd be a 500-foot setback from all property lines, maximum height 20 foot. They can't produce glare that would constitute a nuisance to neighboring parcels or roads. There's also some buffer or screening requirements, evergreen planting, 25 foot wide, 10 foot in height around the perimeter of the project. And there would also be decommissioning. So that would be for the commercial uses. The other ones would be accessory to existing uses. These would be the roof mounted or ground mounted devices on the same lot as a principal use. The panels on the roof, whether it's existing or resident or existing commercial or residential, would be permitted in all districts. They would be subject to some minor regulations regarding projections and how high they can go above the roofs and things like that. In terms of ground mounted solar panels, there is a difference here. They would be permitted as accessory to residences. They would be limited to 120 square foot in size, 10 foot in height, and would have the same setbacks as other accessory structures like sheds. Ground-mounted solar panels accessory to non-residential uses would not be permitted. There's a concern that they could proliferate on some of the larger commercial sites. So that's some general synopsis of the background information.
Thank you very much, Chad.
Is representatives from the planning commission or the,
Tony's here from the planning.
Okay.
And Bruce.
let them speak to that.
Okay, we'll invite Bruce and Tony up to make any comments that they'd like to make.
Well, the only comment that I'd like to make is that the planning commission was tasked with trying to come up with some options that we could pass on to the commissioners that would appease the issue that came up with the Deep Creek Watershed zoning. So I want to make that very clear. This is just a process for the Deep Creek Watershed zoning area. And the rest of it is all, not relevant really. So I want to make that very clear. We had a very robust discussion. I think, Jim, you were part of it, I think, the day we had that meeting. And I think the discussion wavered 15 different directions. So that's good when you have that much input. So I'm just pointing out that it is a watershed issue, and that's what we're dealing with tonight. So if there's any questions for myself, I am the chairman of the planning commission. I'd be glad to answer them, or at least try to anyway. Bruce, do you have anything?
Yeah. Thanks, Tony. My name is Bruce Swift. I'm here as a member of the Deep Creek Watershed Board of Zoning Appeals. Our board submitted this amendment to the planning commission, who then review it, and if they're in favor, they send it on to the county commissioners for their consideration. The reasons for our submittal is pretty much as follows. Our zoning ordinance has a clear historical intent to limit industrial uses in the zoning district. The current lack of language in the ordinance addressing solar facilities creates a problem for our administrators like Chad when they get these applications. And the increasing number of inquiries for solar facilities in the district make it, we think, important that we add some kind of language to address that. We had earlier in the year, we had one submission inside the zoning district, and it brought a large public outcry, probably the biggest we've seen on any issue in a long time, and to further, solidify the need to do something about this. The amendment that Chad read to you is based largely on language found during our research from other jurisdictions that have existing solar ordinances, as well as language from our past zoning amendments in an ordinance of this type. In many ways, the board is elected to request a more moderate regulation for solar facilities than had historically been requested. For example, fracking, when it came up, it was requested for setbacks of 2,000 feet from Deep Creek Lake's high water mark and 1,000 feet from non-controlled adjoining parcels. In contrast to that, we're asking for a modest 500 feet. Wind power was disallowed in the district altogether. So we think this amendment that we propose is a reasonable, request and to give us something to work for. Currently, we think there's about 8 solar facilities in some stage of planning, construction, or operation in the county, in and out of the zoning district. And I wanted to expand on what Tony and Chad said. I mean, these amendments only affect the watershed area, which is less than 10% of the county as a whole. I mean, we're trying to protect our asset here, the zoning district in Deep Creek Lake.
All right. I want to thank Tony and Bruce for being here tonight, and their respective groups for the work that they've done on this. Thank you guys very much. Right now we have, it looks like 5 people signed up to comment. I'll call you by name. Hopefully I don't butcher it. If I do, I apologize in advance. Again, if you'll come up to the podium. We were going to have a 3-minute time limit on the comments. We didn't know what to expect as far as turnout. I'm not going to, as long as Commissioner Heimball's okay with that, and force that with such a small group of people to comment. But just please be conscious that, people's time is valuable, so certainly want to hear what you have to say. And always, we have received several emails. Certainly, if you're watching online and aren't here to comment personally, or if you think of something after tonight, or if you didn't comment tonight, but you hear something that you feel you need to comment on, please email the commissioners either at GC Comments, which is the general comment section, or any one of us individually, and we will take all that stuff into consideration. So with that, the first person to sign up is Paul Marino Clotti. Yes, sir. If you would come up to the podium.
Hi, everybody. My question is, I own a 62 acre. I can use a 10 acre to put a solar system. You see, the property is very long. The solar system must be put in the back. You can see from the road, you can see from the houses around there. So no bother anybody. And I have to pay tax anyway there. So please, take into consideration, give them 10 acre, 15 acre, whichever I can do, can put a solar system. And I don't think bother anybody, no. More electricity, less coal we use in America. So it's a benefit to me, for us, anybody's effort. So please try to give this permission.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Bob Sutton.
Hey, I'm speaking as president of the Property Owners Association. First of all, I think you guys, like to commend you for reacting quickly to the issue. I know we wrote a letter back a few months ago and requested that the ordinance be modified, and you folks reacted very quickly to it, so thanks a lot. From the about 1,000 members of the POA or properties, we put out the proposed regulations, the proposed changes to our membership, and didn't have a single negative comment, had a lot of positive comments. People were generally worried about the aesthetic value of the property and tourism, and I don't think anybody wants to come up, visit the lake and see a giant solar mountain. So I think what you guys did is good, and I think most of our members were pleased with the proposal that we have tonight. So thank you very much, and hopefully it'll get passed.
Thank you, Bob. Charles Chartery?
It's turned on.
No.
That's my right.
All right.
Yeah, my name's Chuck Charlong. I'm president of the Paradise Ridge Homeowners Association right off of Paradise Point Road. I was part of the group that outcried the sand flat array, the extended version of that array. We still oppose that, and we're looking forward to fighting that in the appeals process in December. I'm speaking to you for myself. I am personally vested. I'm commercially invested in that area. I own a rental cabin. I'm concerned about the value of the property of both of those places, plus if people can go to any number of hundreds or thousands of other rental properties in the area, they're going to go there and not one down the street from the solar array. Again, if you're not familiar with the area, Paradise Ridge is only 1 mile as a crow flies to the sand flat array that's being built. And again, I appreciate your putting the regulations together. I wish you'd had these back in 2019 before you allowed the initial, 15 acres that are built up there. That was finished construction over the summer. It's a complete eyesore. It sits up on top of the hill, and they're now looking to build it while spilling down over the hill down to the roadside. And we have to look at that every day. Every day I drive by, I have to look at it. So again, I appreciate the effort. I don't think it goes far enough. If you're looking to protect only 10% of Garrett County, I don't understand why you can't outright ban it like you did with the wind turbines. It's, Paradise Ridge is surrounded by cornfields. If this one in Sandflat gets approved in December, I can see that everybody's gonna come in and wanna have solar arrays. So I don't see why we wouldn't simply outright ban it. Show the same backbone we did with the windmills, and just simply outright ban the solar arrays. I can live with a 500-foot setback, but again, that doesn't protect my homeowners association and 100 homes that we have there. So again, I appreciate you considering the outright ban. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Tumbarella.
Well, thanks so much for this hearing, and to Tony and his committee as well. I just want to say a couple things. I have two hats really here. One, I live in the Watershed off of Glendale, and two, I do some communication work for one of the organizations that are trying potentially to come into the county to do some solar. So I wanted to say that up front. I absolutely recognize the desire to keep everything good in the watershed, and I think that's wise and smart, member of the POA, et cetera. I would only say, consider maybe splitting the commercial into community and utility grade. Something from 16 to 20 acres is, there's site studies done, there's glare studies done. It could help individuals such as we heard and others that may wish to use their land to generate some income, farmers or whatever. But it needs to be done effectively, carefully, recognizing that. I would say consider, so a community solar that maybe has less of a setback, perhaps less of an onerous buffer that could have other vegetation that exists already. So I know it's a challenge to come up with this. So I see that completely, but just wanted to suggest maybe as you're looking at this, the amendments, et cetera, and future things, slice it a little more finely and see if there's any opportunity there. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Michelle Carpenter.
Hello, Michelle Carpenter with Turning Point Energy. I'm going to follow up with Mike's comments with just a few more of my own. So thank you for taking the time to listen to me today. I think Mike elaborated on how community solar, does not equal utility scale solar. They are very different. We did some internal analysis at our company, and I think we submitted this in written comments, but for other folks, where we essentially identified 97 parcels that based on the size of community solar projects, we are typically 16 to 20 acres. When you apply the 500-foot buffer around the edge of them, you need over 80 acres, and we identified, I believe it was 97 of them. When we narrowed that for site criteria to figure out projects that could actually interconnect that did not have any other encumbrances or issues, it really narrowed the parcels down to 4 potentially usable parcels in the Deep Creek watershed. So, from our perspective, it is almost essentially like an outright ban. If only 4 parcels are viable, and then we would have to actually talk to those landowners and actually get them interested. Our concern is this unfairly disadvantages landowners of parcels less than 80 acres because they would not have the ability to move forward with projects such as these. By no means are we saying, that it is not appropriate to implement buffers and other site-by-site requirements. Those are absolutely appropriate. Each site should be considered on a site-by-site basis to try and figure out, are there appropriate ways to buffer it? Based on certain parcels, they may already be naturally buffered. There may not be any adjacent neighbors that are residential properties. It may be, adjacent to undeveloped land, or commercial uses that may, not necessarily require a, 25-foot wide evergreen planted buffer. So our big request to this ordinance is to take a look at the 500 feet, reduce that 500 feet because it's unduly burdensome on smaller landowners. And then separate from that to look at the 10-foot minimum height plantings that are currently in there, which is unnecessarily cost prohibitive and also cumbersome to identify and source and have successfully grow trees when they are that large. So our request would be to look at smaller plantings that will grow in over 2 to 3 years and provide the appropriate buffering, and then look at the projects on a site-by-site basis. That's it.
Thank you. That actually is the conclusion of the list to sign up. If you would like to speak, please come up and state your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Deborah Hutton, and we have a property on Paradise Point also. My concern is what these things do to the land itself. And it's my understanding that it's pretty much kills everything underneath. So you're talking about 16 acres of dead soil forever in our lifetime. No worms, no bugs, nothing. You're also talking about heavy metals that degrade. These solar arrays only produce for like 20 to 25 years, and then you can't use them anymore. So you've got all this property that now has dead soil, and you have heavy metals falling into the watershed, because that's what we're talking about. And I just think that's even more of an issue than, I would say, the view or the ugliness of them. It's really what it's doing to the environment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? All right, I'll ask Chad, anything that you would like to add, or,
I don't think so, unless you have any questions about anything specific.
okay, Tony,
I don't think so, or Paul, I think we're pretty good.
Bruce,
No, I'm good, thanks.
Commissioner?
No, just thank you all for coming. Thanks to those who spoke.
All right, we will take all this under consideration. Certainly, again, anyone online or anyone in the audience who would like to comment further, please email us or send us a letter or give us a call or whatever. GC Comments is a good place to send an email, gccomments@garrettcounty.org, or to any one of the commissioners or our county administrator, Kevin Knoll, directly. We'll take all of this under advisement and advertise next steps. Thank you all very much. This concludes the public hearing for the proposed solar amendments to the Deep Creek Watershed zoning ordinance. Have a good evening.